Gets it to LeBron for three for the win. Yes! LeBron James at the buzzer!
Gordon cut through. They go to Barrett. He'll turn and shoot for the win.
Bingo!
Yes, sir. What's up, guys?
How we doing?
So we have an NBA final set. First, what were your thoughts? Let's start in the West. What were your thoughts on the OKC Minnesota matchup?
My thoughts were that this is easily the best team we've seen out west since Golden State. I would say that overall, just like roster construction wise, and the fact that they have Shai, who I think just put together one of the best guard seasons we've seen in my lifetime, at least, between him being one of the best scorers of this generation, having elite defense from perimeter to rim defense. The Minnesota Timberwolves, though, being a 6 seed, I think they were the second best team in the West since the All-Star break, and they just looked like a little league team out there. So I would just say, okay, yeah, and that's no disrespect to Minnesota. It's a respect to OKC and how awesome they've been for the entire season, especially the past few months. And we'll get into our prediction. We'll get into our predictions later. But towards the beginning of the Western Conference Finals, I said I'd be surprised if OKC plays more than 10 games, and I think, and I wouldn't be surprised if my prediction ended up being right there.
Yeah, I had to say that I was wrong. The last time we talked about it, made our predictions. I thought that the Timberwolves were going to put up more of a fight than what they did. And honestly, it wasn't really a lot of bad T-Wolves basketball as much as it was just really good Oklahoma City Thunder basketball. Like they were just outmatched, and it was apparent from beginning to end of that series. Oklahoma just looks very strong. I mean, this is the reason they were a 1 seed. They kind of put their foot down, pedal to the metal, and just, yeah, like, I mean, this is going to be a great series coming up, just because I think both these teams are on a roll. This is going to be a lot of fun.
So you said, why did you think it wasn't a more competitive series?
I think it's kind of it on paper. Oklahoma City, I think, is a much better squad overall than the Timberwolves are. I think that a lot of people were predicting the Timberwolves to put up more of a fight because of just how well they played in the 2 series previous. But at the end of the day, it really just we got the best version of OKC versus, as good as the T-Wolves can get, and the T-Wolves just aren't good enough of a team. The Oklahoma City is just built better top to bottom, and it just, what was supposed to happen happened, I guess, really.
And listen, I agree with you. It's interesting because I think when the playoffs started, or as the season was ending, everybody's thing was no one's afraid to play OKC. If that's the matchup you can get, you're feeling confident because they're too young, they're too this, they're too that. And they really just dominated. Look, they had bad games, right? Like Minnesota beat them by 117 points. However, in their wins, right? Even in the game 7 win, it was 25 points plus. Then game 1, it's a 25-point plus win, which is the first time that's ever been done in NBA history. Like, do you give Jokic / the Nuggets more credit now, seeing what OKC did in the first and the third round, after seeing how easily they defeated those 2 squads, and then like, wow, Denver with a one-shouldered MPJ, they had Aaron Gordon who was hurt, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, wow, and they took him to 7. Like, is it Jokic? Is it Denver that you give that credit to now?
I definitely think so. It's funny enough, because Jokic didn't his impact is always there, no matter what. It's kind of similar to like Steph and even Steph today, but like more specifically towards Steph in the earlier days in Golden State. to where even if he was shooting poorly, his impact was always going to be on the court because of how much the defense drew to him. So I think that kind of happened with Denver as well. When Jokic wasn't scoring a bunch of points, his teammates were getting open and picking it up for him. So that's one thing I felt there, and I definitely think a main reason, if not the main reason, why Denver was able to keep up with OKC. But yeah, Jokic isn't the only one that deserves all the credit, because before Gordon got injured, he was still playing. He was playing awesome. Jamal Murray had a handful of very good games, and you even got to give credit to the head coach. I forgot his name. I don't know.
David Adelman.
Adelman, right? Yeah. So, he's someone who had to take over from the beginning, from a couple, even just less than 2 months ago, probably at this point, and really just like it seemed like Mike Malone isn't gone. Like beginning of the season, I said that Mike Malone was a top 3 coach in the league, and I don't know if he is. I don't know if he is, but clearly the players in the front office not even the front office, but the ownership didn't really believe in him. So maybe Mike Malone can take over somewhere else. But regardless, and I don't know if the side effects are going to kick in next year, but like the assistant coach was able to take over really well.
Yeah, it definitely makes you feel, I think, if you are Denver, a little bit better about how the season finished out and how tough of a fight you put up. Because yeah, I mean this Oklahoma City Thunder team just, I mean, we're gonna be talking about an all-time great season at the end of this if they, do and they follow through. And that context is kind of hard for us to find right now, I think, because everybody kind of was on that same bandwagon. We were all kind of underestimating them a little bit, saying, they're too young, they're probably not there yet, they're a little too inexperienced. And I mean, they're kind of just proving, their moment is now, and we were all kind of wrong. And it's very interesting to see it kind of come to fruition.
Yeah, I think I think it's an excuse, by the way, when we say a team is too young.
Right.
It's, fans come up with the darndest things. Oh, the team is too young, that's why they lost. Oh, the team is too old, that's why they lost. Or the team is too young, that's why you beat them. Or the team is too old, that's why you beat. Like, at the end of the day, like it's a team that did whatever it did throughout the season, and that's what happened. And I think I personally, like, I just got into it a little bit with like super teams. I'm like, what the hell's a super team? I don't believe in that. Never believed in it. I'm sick of hearing it. It's a created term, a created narrative by people to either explain why their favorite player lost or why their least favorite player won. Right? It's a load of crap. It's a cop-out. What is that all-American hoop thing you got there? Look at that. That's fire.
Yeah, my girlfriend got it for me for my birthday. It's a very she got it on Etsy. So yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, there is one that it like rotates throughout, but maybe that's not kicking in.
My son has just a basketball, and my daughter has the exact same thing. It's a horse.
Oh, nice.
I warn you, it is very temperamental. So when you're tapping on it, be gentle.
Yes.
But that's, I think all of those terms, like I said, baseline bums, what up? I just think it's a load of crap. Because like I said, did we ever, what is too old? Right? Like
the 2022 Lakers. Once they traded for us and like got rid of all their players, and they had to sign Carmelo and a bunch of all those guys. They were the oldest team in the league. Everyone picked them to go to the finals because they had, well, not everyone, but like they were the favorites at the very least to go to the finals. And
when you say the oldest team in the league, you mean like average age of the roster?
Yeah.
You know how many times the oldest team in the league has won an NBA championship? Quite a few.
Oh, really?
Quite a few.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Spurs, just because they had Kawhi, if you look at Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker, like that, Boris Diaw, like that was an old. I don't know, of course, he was on that team at that time, but it was an old team. The Bulls in '98 were an old team.
The team that I just meant, the Lakers. I'm pretty sure they were the oldest average of all time, if I'm not mistaken. So like that would have been too old.
Possibly, but you had these old teams, and then young teams. Well, OKC showing you a young team can win.
2015 Golden State. Yeah.
All right, 2015 Golden State. So that's what I'm saying is I think it's a built-in excuse for, we lost. Oh, it's because we were old or because we were young. That's all I'm saying. That's all. Oh, we lost because they were a super team. What made them super? What made them super? Right? There's maybe one exception.
You ask someone to define super team, and it's all over the place. Yeah, you're right.
Jaylen Brown got more slander over the 2023-24 offseason, talking about how he has no left hand, he has all that crap. But meanwhile, the Celtics won the finals because they were a super team. But somehow Jaylen Brown is in the top 30 player. That's the first team I've ever heard
the year
of.
they lost in the final, he had no left, and you're right. And then is it 2 years later they win it, and it's a super team?
Yes.
Yeah.
There you go. How about it's just a team that developed and grew together?
Yes, and made the right moves to like.
Yeah. I said, look, if I can get 15 All-Stars on my team, shame on the other 29 teams in the league for letting me do it.
Yes.
If it's all legit, right? If I'm under the salary, because there's a salary cap. I'm under the salary cap. There was no, and even collusion. Do you know that player collusion is not illegal? There's no rule against players recruiting other players. Now, can the GM or president go and tell the person do a side deal?
Does tampering violations are those not a thing? Or like
players?
Oh, players. Oh, really? Oh,
there's no rules against players. None. Your coach can't do it. Your GM can't do it. Your owner can't say, "Hey, come here and I'll sign you." I own this other company, and we'll pay you $5 million a year in the NBA, but I'll give you $100 million endorsement deal, right? Like you can't do that's illegal. That's tampering. But if I, as a player, am sitting here and we do this podcast every summer in the off season, and when the lights go off and the show is over, I say, "Hey, Chris," or you guys are both all NBA, all defensive team, first team with me last year. Wouldn't it be cool if the three of us got together with the other two all NBA first teamers and the five of us had like an all NBA first team starting lineup? That'd be cool. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing. So now, because how are you gonna police that? I think that's why they can't. Right, players are going to talk. Players grow up together now. They play AAU ball together. They're all over the place together. So, can you stop LeBron James from going and bouncing around on a banana boat with Dwayne Wade? You can't. You can't tell. What are you going to tell them? Sorry, guys. Because don't forget, it wasn't a rule because in the olden days, those guys would have hated each other and they wouldn't have wanted to hang out. Now,
Steph, Clay, Draymond, Iggy, you guys aren't allowed to invite Kevin Durant out to the Hamptons on 4th of July weekend.
Right. You can't police that. They're in the offseason and do whatever the hell they want. Like there's certain things in the contract. Okay, hey, if you ride a motorcycle and you get into an accident, you're not going to get your contract is null and void. Stuff like that. Sure.
Right.
You can't be friends with Bob. You can't do it. So that's what I'm saying. So as long as you haven't done anything like that, like what was the one, Joe Smith? Then Minnesota did that thing with Joe. You guys don't remember Joe Smith? They made like a side deal with him for him to wait to sign as a free agent before they did other moves, and then they caught it and they took away their draft picks, and then Joe Smith didn't play, and they had to trade him to another team. And it actually really hurt Minnesota and Kevin during the KG days. You guys having KG on Boston, you should know his history. Joe Smith, very not uncommon name. So that's why with the super team thing, I don't care. You are a good GM and you found a way to make your salary fit with Curry and Clay and Dre and KD, and he left the team that you guys just came back from 3-1 and beat. Good for you. LeBron, you want to go to Miami with Bosh and Wade, who are all three top 10 scorers the year before in the East. All three were whatever you want to call them. All three were the best players on their individual teams. So you eliminated two teams from the running because now those two teams, the Cavs and the Raptors, will now suck to create a team in Miami. Good for you. Good for you.
The thing that also drives me
best team and win a chip.
Yeah, the thing that also drives me crazy is like when those moves happen, people say like, "Oh, they're not going to be good anyway." So like kind of like when even when Golden State signed Kevin Durant, like people like there were people that were still saying like, "Oh, like Ross, maybe like not the media, but like people I was talking to, but they were saying like they don't have enough defense, they don't have enough rebounding, they don't have enough depth. So like LeBron is obviously still gonna beat them. So I don't like I'm not making that up, but like maybe you guys were talking to different people at the time.
Well, those are those super fans or like those are the super LeBron fans. So those exist, super fans, or Curry haters or KD haters, I guess. But I don't think there was anyone watching basketball impartially subjectively saying the Warriors with Kevin Durant.
Okay, I was I was doing my best to not use the Celtics example, just because after it's like after the Celtics traded Marcus Smart for Porzingis, it's KP's injury prone. It's you traded your one center Rob Williams and your 6-man Malcolm Brogdon for Drew Holiday, who's aging. And then it became like, Giannis and Dame are totally gonna beat them. It turned into whoever comes out of the West is going to destroy whoever comes out of the East, and the narrative changed. And now it's the Celtics are a super team. No one was going to beat them.
Yeah, and then the next year they get eliminated before the Eastern Conference Final.
Yeah,
no, it's on the team now. Now they're saying, you got to blow it up.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. Notice how the narrative exactly. Now it's full rebuild.
Yeah. You're not going to trade Tatum, but you got to trade Jaylen Brown. You got to get rid of Porzingis, and it's like, hold on, I thought they were a super team last week.
By the way,
that narrative.
By the way, Tim Bontemps, that hack from ESPN, the one who prevented Jason Tatum from winning Finals MVP and MVP, he came out saying that he thinks that Al Horford's going to sign with the Knicks, which I think that would be a bigger knife through my chest than when he did with the Sixers, because I don't have it up yet because it's so big. But John and Matt, my brothers, they bought me, their gift was a signed Al Horford jersey in a frame, which I haven't been able to put up yet. So that would be very upsetting if it'll stay up because he did win a ring with us. But
he could actually retire a Celtic, I think.
I think he will. I don't really know, because he would fit really well with the Knicks because he would. They do need another center off the bench for when Rich Robinson is inevitably going to get injured. But I feel like he should stay where he's comfortable because he's older now, and it's gonna be tougher to adjust than when he adjusted to Boston in the first place than when he adjusted to Philly. So it'd be tough.
I hate to say it. Well, let's go to the East. Let's have that conversation. Yeah. So Indiana just showed everything that was wrong with the Knicks, or everything that was right with them. The narrative was, and people tried to push back, the Knicks can't win with Jalen Brunson being their 1A. Is that now truer than ever before?
Oh, I really have a problem with blaming Jalen Brunson for any of the Knicks' hardships, to be honest. Because at the end of the day, I feel like he's the guy that's kind of been pressing him to a new level, especially with a lot of his playoff performances and the way that he kind of has showcased that he is a dog. I know he's a defensive liability. We have a lot of guys that are that way, that are superstars. I don't see Brunson being the guy that could be the scapegoat for the Knicks' trouble in this series. I feel like there are so many other things that could be blamed. I just don't see Brunson high on that list for me as someone that deserves a lot of blame for them underperforming.
I'm not suggesting he gets the blame for underperforming, because I don't think they underperformed. I think this is as far as a Jalen Brunson-led team can get you.
I think
he played great.
See, I think it's as far as a Tom Thibodeau team can get you, if I'm being honest. I think it's more a Tibbs issue. I think the exhaustion, the lack of depth, the 6-man rotations and the 45 minutes per night. I think it's a Tibbs issue. I think this is as far as the Tibbs team can get, to be honest, more than a Brunson thing.
I'm confused. I thought the players had better nutrition, better trainers. They're more athletic, more skilled, more everything than years past. Why can't they play 40 minutes a game?
I don't know. It doesn't seem to work for anybody else.
Well, it's funny how that reverse
but it's
narrative
definitely true. Well, you can say the same thing about load management. If you spend $1 million on your body, why do you miss any games when they used to not miss a single game? Right? I definitely.
Will played 48.5 minutes for an entire season. What's the problem?
And you drink a gallon of milk on the sidelines,
and smoke a cigarette and probably do who knows what else.
Right? Yeah. It is very strange when you put it in that.
How many 82 games did that gambling, alcoholic, cigar smoking, bald headed dude from the University of North Carolina play? I don't know.
He also took off a year and a half in the middle of his prime, but we can.
But he's got 9 82 game seasons. LeBron
Yes.
has won.
Can we pause there
Yes.
for a second?
Yes.
Do you think taking the year and a half off or the 3 years after is better or worse on your body?
On your body?
First.
Let him answer, because he's the one who brought it up as if it was a good thing.
I think long term it's better. I would say, like, when you first come back, it's worse because you're rusty. But like in the long term, I think it's better because you got a year and a half worth of rest, and so like it's better for you in the long run because you're able to like pick it up for maybe pick it up for like another couple years afterwards, which ended up not happening. But I don't know.
You sound like a young man, because ask any and you can ask a kinesiology student or someone has studied kinesiology. Have you heard of the term pliability?
Yes.
Okay. It's what Tom Brady says is the reason for his extended career. And so when you stop, even if you're playing a different sport, baseball and basketball are completely different muscles that you're using. When you take even that 1 year off at the age of 35, 36, 37, that 1 year is you can't reverse that. You can't get it back. And your body goes through a lack of, creates more stiffness. So where that little kind of bend that would have just bounced right back is now becomes a break, now becomes a sprain, now becomes a tear. And so when you, like, I'll use the 3 years and then I'll go back to the year and a half. So when you look at that 3 years between the 98 and the Wizards years, that would have been like taking 10 years off on when you say the rust, right? Because that's when we say there's no rust. You don't get rusty. It's that your body can now, instead of doing this, now it can only do this. And that changes your everything about your game. And so, people would say, credit to LeBron. Let me not take it away, but as an example, credit to LeBron for continuing to play. But if he would have taken off 2 years in the middle, it would have been worse. According to science, is there an exception to the rule? Of course, there's always an exception to every rule. But in 99.9% of cases, and people always want to argue and say, it's less wear and tear. Yeah and no, because you're still getting older. So imagine, like, what sport do you play most often if you play any sport still to this day?
Basketball.
Basketball?
Yeah.
Basketball. Okay. So when was the last time you played?
Like 2 months ago.
Okay. So let me ask you, if you played straight from 2 months ago every single day until today versus you played 2 months ago, haven't touched the ball since, and now you play again, which version of you would be better?
If I was playing more consistently.
Now extend that out over 2 years.
Yeah, very true. Yeah.
Right. And that's the part that people don't realize. It's like, he got to rest. No, he got to rust. Right. Which rust is the wrong term. So when people say, he wasn't in basketball shape, he's never going to get back into. Right. He was never any player. This isn't just Jordan. They're not going to be the same guy. Like, so anyways,
is Jalen's not here, so you're making me look like I'm the LeBron guy in the argument. So like you missed that so much.
Well, Jalen's not getting married this weekend, so
yeah,
that was a good one.
Where are we? Where I even forgot what we were talking about. How we got here?
We started with the Eastern Conference.
How a Tom Thibodeau team couldn't lead into the finals. So part of me agrees with you, Ori, given that at the end of the day you do need depth in order to win a championship. Starting five matters more, but you do need some type of like you do need like a solid 6 through 8 as well. Although like the eighth man doesn't really matter once you get to the finals because it's mostly just like a top 7 plays the entire game in the finals. But to answer your question about Brunson, Tony, so I would say that I've underestimated Brunson in the Knicks since they first signed with him because I really didn't think that Brunson was ever going to be that. No one thought he'd be this good, but I never thought he would be even an all-star. Now he got some first-team All-NBA votes this year. So I would say that this might be the ceiling. Like I don't want to underestimate him again, but like it's just someone that is just that small and can be targeted so much. Like the Pacers, at the end of the games, you saw them, like they were making every single effort to go after Brunson. And when they weren't going after Brunson, they were going after the second biggest liability on the floor, and that's their center, Karl-Anthony Towns. Their defense can only go so far.
Offensively, it was...
Their defense could only go... A team's defense can only be so great. OG Anunoby is one of the best wing defenders in the league. Mikal Bridges, not as good as he used to be, but still very, very good at defense. Josh Hart, very solid. He wasn't great this series, but still pretty solid. Mitchell Robinson has some moments where he's looking like one of the better rim defenders in the league. Karl-Anthony Towns cannot be the starting center, your starting center, and Jalen Brunson cannot be your starting point guard if you want to, like, they can be your two best offensive players, but you need another great rim defender. You need another a guy that can be healthy like Mitchell Robinson. Whether it's Rudy Gobert, whether it's a Jaren Jackson Jr., I'm naming something better than ones in the league. But Karl-Anthony Towns needs to be your power forward rather than your starting center if Jalen Brunson is your point guard. And I'm sure I actually laid out a couple of trades that could work out, but like that's my take, is that yes, Jalen Brunson can be the best player on your championship team, but you need better defense around him.
I disagree. I think when you look at the small guys like that who are the best player on a team, them winning a championship are so few and far between.
Yep.
And they aren't good. They aren't great. They are exceptional at that size, and they're surrounded by an exceptional team. So, right? Examples. Steph Curry was the best player on the Warriors. He is 6'3", so I think when I say little, I think 6'3" not considered little. It's like 6'1", 6 and lower, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at, say, him, he's the greatest shooter of all time. He was surrounded by another maybe top 5 greatest three-point catch and shoot shooters of all time in Clay, and he had a kind of once in a generational center who could facilitate, at the time, knock down shots, right? Play elite level defense on every position. Like and we're not even talking about the auxiliary role player guys, which were also perfect for their roles and played their roles perfectly. And then he got a top 5, top 3 player in the league to kind of mesh with him, so that, and you could argue who was better, right? So those other two, when he did with Wiggins, same thing, right? It was that. When you go back, how far back do you have to go for another little guy winning?
Is Dwayne Wade a little guy or no? He's 6'4".
Well, that's why I say I wouldn't say it.
No, yeah. If he's not, then you have to go back to Zeke.
To Zeke, and look what he had. He had another guy who was about the same size, who was just as good offensively, even better defensively. And by the way, the first year they had like Rick Mahorn, a young John Sally, Dennis Rodman, Vinnie Johnson, like a guy coming off the bench who could score 20 at 8, like Adrian Dantley that first year. Like the team was so stacked, it was ridiculous.
So at the end of the day, right, we're kind of leaning towards the big being a little bit more important.
100%.
So how much should we really be blaming Cat instead of Brunson?
That's what I'm saying, is that for Brunson to be successful, it's a once in a 40-year occurrence. So is that what you want to bet on? Or do you say, hey, everybody loves him and thinks he's great, let's see what I can get for him?
Ooh.
That's
if you have to go 2015, if you have to go 2015 or whatever, or 2021 if you want to use that version of Curry, to 1989, and those are the two times someone 6'1" and shorter was the number 1 player on a championship team. Is that what you want to bet on?
So the question becomes,
you can, but if I'm going to Vegas and I ain't taking those odds. Are you?
No.
2 times in 75 years?
That's tough.
I'm not sure because it's one of those things to where
he has the team around him. Unless you think he has a team around him.
So that's the thing. It seems like because it seems like everything else has to go well. Because he's like, as you mentioned with Golden State, not only did he have Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, he also had a bunch of other guys who could create their own shot, like just like bench guys, like Sean Livingston, like a Leo Barbosa, like who aren't like big name players, but solid. So I would say, because again, like I've underestimated Brunson every step of the way, so like I don't want to underestimate him again, but.
I'm not underestimating Brunson. I'm underestimating the team around him. Like I don't think your 6'4", 6'5" Josh Hart can be can be your best rebounder and you win a championship. I don't think OG Anunoby is as good of a defender, because I've seen him when it matters the most, as everyone gives him credit for. I definitely know he's not as good of an offensive player as they need him to be. I don't think Cat is, you can't have two guys on the court, like you just said, that the defenses can attack, right? If you can attack the point guard and the center defensively, it's difficult. I'm not saying impossible. I'm saying it makes it really hard for you to win a championship. You got Bridges. Like, I said it when they made that trade. They're going to be, I said they went further than I thought in the playoffs, but I said they're going to be really good in the regular season. But they're not good enough to win a championship because the roster construction makes me nervous.
So at the end of the day, with the Knicks, what do you think is important for them to change dynamic wise next season, like with an off season move? I mean, obviously they're not going to move off of Brunson or Cat. So I mean, is there something that you think they have to add that really makes them real contenders, or is this the cap? And they do have to move one of those guys.
This is going to make ownership really happy, because they're going to be contenders. They're going to get really close and never make it. So they're going to sell hope and a lot of tickets. But this team, as constructed, will not win a championship.
No.
And now the Bucks.
Now that being said, the Bucks are falling apart. The Celtics are going to have a down year. If anything happens to any Indiana players, now they have that exception, right? There's that exception year, because by default, if something happens to Indiana, they're the best team in the East. So by default, they'll have a chance next year. If not that everyone's ever healthy, but if Tatum comes back, like I think he will, like by Christmas or the New Year, this is as far as they're going to go.
Yeah.
This is as far as they're going to go. Especially, like you said, if Tibbs plays them 40 minutes a game next season too.
Well, that's like, what if they moved off of Tibbs? Like, is there like, I don't mean to make him like the big scapegoat here, but I've never been a fan of the way that he kind of runs things. And although he is a successful coach, I'm not going to deny that. But I feel like at the end of the day, like I said before, like this is his peak. Like this is as far as the Tibbs team can go. And I just think that that's the case.
So I like this idea. Josh Hart as the Swiss Army knife coming off the bench, sure. So I think you need to, if Jalen Brunson's your 1, Cat needs to be your 4. You need to get a reliable defensive rebounding center. And then you need to make a decision. OG or Bridges, pick one and get rid of the other one. And figure out a way to go 10 deep. Now you can cut that to 8 or 9 in the playoffs, but you need to be 10 to 12 deep in the regular season.
Yep.
You can't Tibbs yourself. Right. So, all right. So the series, let's give the credit to the Pacers. 4 of the voters out of 9 voted for Haliburton. 5 of the 9 voted for Pascal Siakam as Eastern Conference MVP. Where's your vote?
I would have gone with Haliburton. I think it's one of those things where I think that unless the second best player so clearly outplays the best player on like in the series, I think that my pick would usually go to the best player in the team, given that they're the ones leading the way the entire way. And especially with Haliburton, given that he hit like the most like one of the most iconic shots of all time, like at least one of the best shots I've seen in my lifetime, and the fact that he like totally sealed the deal from closing it out in the fourth quarter. Like Pascal may have played some games better, and he also had like the higher floor than Haliburton. Like Haliburton played awful in Game 5, but I just think that which one is actually the more valuable player to the team. I think it's very clearly Haliburton.
Yeah, and I'm on the same boat there, because I think obviously the case could be made for Siakam's consistency, which is why I think he got the votes the way he did. But at true value, Haliburton is the cog that makes everything work there. And yeah, he is obviously the best player and came up the biggest, I think. So I would
So
have voted for
let
Haliburton.
me read you something. So Haliburton is just the fourth player to record at least 20 points and 10 assists in a series clinching win in the Eastern Conference Finals. The fourth. The only other people to do it, Kevin Porter, Isaiah Thomas, Scottie Pippen, which was 75, 1990, 1991. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
Haliburton is the third player to average at least 20 points per game and 10 assists in an Eastern Conference Finals series, joining Rajon Rondo and Drew Holiday, 2012 and 2021. Haliburton produced his 9th double-double of the 2025 NBA playoffs, tying Dale Davis for the most such games in a single playoff run by the Indiana Pacer since they joined the NBA in 1976. So not only was he the most consistent, the best player on the team, the leader, hit the massive moments, had the shot, but he also did something that only 2 or 3 people have ever done on a couple of different levels. And it's not like no one voted for him. It was like literally one person who voted for Siakam. Had they voted for Haliburton, it would have been. So it's. I find that interesting. I also find it interesting that only 9 people got to vote.
Yeah.
That's what it always is. I feel like, right? Isn't it always like
Yeah,
only like
yeah.
9 to 15? Yeah.
I think that's a little. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that.
Arbitrary.
And also, I think 3 or 4 of them are from ESPN.
Yeah.
I feel like they could have a more diverse voting system.
I low key feel like, and like I know that, trust me, I know there's flaws to this, but I feel like if there is an award that players should vote for, I feel like it should be like the winner of the team, like the players, like which I know that would have its flaws, but I do feel like it would be a little more, like a little more accurate based on the way of thinking about it. But those votes would definitely have to be anonymous, even though you know that eventually something would get out.
They're not anonymous. They're out.
They got it.
Oh, it was the players voting. Yes.
Yeah, at this point, we just gotta have AI tell us who was the champion, right? We'll just have
AI gets too much wrong.
Oh, I'd hate that.
Yeah. Right now, it's just in its infancy. You gotta wait.
Yeah, true.
Is there anything New York could have done to have won this series?
Not choked away a 9-point lead with less than a minute left in game 1.
You think if they had held on to that, they would have won?
Absolutely. Okay, they would have had a better shot because like I feel like game 1 was such a heartbreaking loss that carried over to game 2 as well, and then like they grinded out that game 3 win, which like gave them hope, but then just like so much went wrong after that I feel like they would have had a better shot had game 1 had they won game 1.
Yeah, Cat, man, it's Cat. At the end of the day, for me, I think that like we needed defense from him. They needed defensive output. They needed something. I think a little bit more. They needed him to reach a little bit deeper into his bag and pull out something maybe that would have pushed them over the top potentially. But I just, at the end of the day, you said it, like having those 2 guys being defensive liabilities puts you in such a tricky position. And yeah, New York, man, I feel bad for them. The fans, they got their taste, they got their hopes up. They beat the Celtics, but this is part of their getting for a while. They just don't have the pieces to be true contenders.
Yeah.
Do you think that Cat is the best player in any that could be offered for Giannis?
Is Cat the best player that could be offered for Giannis? No, because there's better players in the league. So no,
there's better players in the league, but like, are those teams like? Yeah, like I feel like most teams are willing to give up certain players for Giannis. Like Brad Stevens would.
Like, where would you have Cat in your top?
I think after heading into the season, I had him in like 28. After the season, I probably have him like chests either inside or outside the top 20.
All right, so then there's between 20 and 30 players that are better than him.
Legitimate trading options, though. I mean, like,
yeah,
Like who are we considering
Like,
assets? Like Jalen Green from Houston, I feel like is somebody that could
Well,
be a
listen,
legitimate asset.
like the Nuggets aren't trading Jokic. The Lakers aren't trading LeBron. The
Right,
can I
right,
get a
right.
clarifying question?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Do the Bucks would the Bucks when you're asking that question, would the Bucks also be interested in taking that player back? Here's what I mean.
Yes.
So, for example, the Phoenix would trade Devin Booker or Kevin Durant to the Bucks.
I think they would rather trade Kevin Durant than Booker. Though.
Okay, Kevin Durant's a better player than Cat.
Right, but they also have less
So-
to give up in addition to that, though.
The Bucks want that, so that's what I'm saying. So you
Yeah.
mean
Mhm.
is Cat the best player that a team would trade to the Bucks that the Bucks would accept in a
Yeah,
Giannis
sure.
deal?
Right,
Mhm.
right.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And if that's the question,
I also think that Cat is probably I think he's a better trade asset at this point than Kevin Durant, though.
yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah, but you had the question, the way you phrased it.
Yeah,
Was,
it was a bad question. Yeah, yeah.
so the thing is this: I heard that he doesn't want to go to the West. So if I eliminate the West for a second and I go down the list, Atlanta has Trae Young. I think he's better than Cat. Boston, if they're looking to blow it up, could trade either Jaylen Brown or a package of Porzingis and someone. I don't think that now that Jaylen Brown.
I don't think
I'm not saying they'll do it. I'm not saying they're doing it. I'm saying if you're blowing it up.
No, but I'm saying I don't like they have to trade Jaylen Brown in order to get Giannis for the money to work. If I'm not mistaken, like even if they do.
No, but they could move. They could move. Porzingis is a $30 million expiring. Sam Howers is another 10. So you got 40 there. So you're already close.
True. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, I think Jaylen Brown. You're right. Is probably the more likely one. And then in that case, I would say Jaylen Brown is better than Cat.
Agreed.
I'm just going down the list. Charlotte has no one. I'm trying to go alphabetical, which is why if you hear me going, it's because I'm thinking, what's the next letter in the alphabet? Detroit has no one that they would trade for, like, that would make money. Like, there's no trade in Detroit unless it's a combination of players. But again, that would not answer your question. After Detroit, who do I got? Who's next? Miami, no one. I'm sure I'm clearly missing a bunch of teams. Give me another team. Don't make me go off my. I'm an old man. I just had a birthday Friday, guys. I can't remember it.
Philadelphia.
Chicago has no one. Yeah, you skipped over Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago has no one. Oh, here we go. Cleveland.
Yeah.
That one's the most interesting one, I think.
Yeah.
But I don't think either.
All right, let me start at the bottom of the standings. Washington, no one. Charlotte, no one. Philadelphia. If they wanted some kind of package of Embiid and something, that would be interesting, but he's hurt, so there's question marks there. Brooklyn, no one. Toronto, no one. Chicago, no one. Atlanta, we said Trae Young. Miami, no one. Orlando, sure, but do you want to give up Banchero? And wouldn't make sense. Detroit, no one. Milwaukee, Indiana. Indiana could probably put a package together, but then New York, Boston, and then Cleveland. So Cleveland, why do you said Cleveland's the most interesting? Why do you think Cleveland's the most interesting?
Because they have the best players in the deal. I think they could either package Mitchell and Garland with like 1 or 2 picks, or they could do Mitchell and Allen. The other one would be Garland and Allen with a boatload of picks.
Yeah.
I think that would probably be the best package out there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's better packages out there than Cat. Is there a better individual player that they would give up? There's probably 1 or 2. Again, unless you go West. But I understand he wants he wants a chance to win, and he knows the East is his best chance to win.
Mm-hmm.
But he would look good in the green. He'd look good in the clover. I'm just saying.
I'm not saying no. I'm telling you that. I'm not saying no.
I think honestly, Giannis is the only person that the Green would want to get if they had to get rid of Jaylen.
Had to get rid of Jaylen, yeah, for sure. I know listen, it won't happen, but I do know from how hard Masai was trying to get Giannis in the draft, how hard he tried when he was coming up as a free agent. He's going to do everything in his power, but I just don't think Toronto has a package that makes sense for Giannis, even though he wants him. You can want something as bad as you want it, but it doesn't mean you're gonna get it.
Yeah, the joke's on us. At the end of the day, it's probably gonna be like Oklahoma City that gets Giannis. They'll package all their picks
Well, that's what I
together,
said.
and
Well, that's what I said. In the West, there's a bunch. Houston
yeah,
has packages. Phoenix has a package.
San Antonio.
yep,
KC, San Antonio was where I thought he was going to go.
yep.
Because that second pick, right, and other stuff. The only problem is I'd want like they'd have to give up Fox or Castle. And I'm like, no, that's who I want with Wemby and Giannis is both of those two guys. But
I don't. That'd be interesting. Like I don't know who they choose between. I think very obviously you would have to get I would very obviously choose Castle to get rid of. But then you need to.
That might come bite you in the butt a couple years down the line because it'll be like, oh, you gave up Sabonis for Haliburton. Now look at you. Like it's going to be like one of those.
Okay, well, you traded for Giannis though, so yeah, that's a little bit different. But
yeah, but what if Giannis is just broken down, can't ever get to his same level Giannis?
I don't know. Mentions a bonus. How about
don't forget that's how people look at it, right? They're not going to look at who they were at the time.
True. Yeah.
Right? Like I'm not wishing this. I'm knocking on wood. You can't see me, but I'm not wishing this on you. But Giannis gets traded. Castle goes. Castle becomes a superstar. Giannis never plays a full season again. They're like, oh, what a stupid trade. Or they won't look at it, right? They won't look at who they were at the time.
Yeah.
Right. We always like to rewrite history. So before
SGA trade, perfect example.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. At the time, everyone was like, oh wow, you guys are the Clippers really set themselves up to be like this, repeat champion with Kawhi and Paul George, even though I was screaming from the rooftops, you idiots. No one ever listens to me. But speaking of that, that's a great segue. I read a tweet that said, whoever wins this NBA final, Paul George should also get a ring.
Yeah.
And here, Amon Jones says, well, both Indiana and OKC benefited off the Paul George trade. So obviously, Paul George gets traded to OKC. OKC gets a package of players who then they then turn around and send a couple Sabonis and whoever Oladipo to Sacramento and get Haliburton back. And now Haliburton leads that team. OKC then trades him to the Clippers. And they get, among other things, I think actually their entire roster, really, but among other things, they get SGA back in the trade. I think, and 3 other draft picks that are starting, but that's too in depth. Let's just stick with SGA. 1, no, Paul George shouldn't get a ring. 2, what are your thoughts on all that? Oh, all the balloons are coming again.
All I know is one of the games, Paul George has got to show up, right? Like you want him in the audience at one of those games, just to be like, hey, he's a little piece of all these franchises, and he's the reason why these guys are all together.
I don't want him anywhere near the finals. I think he's a bad juju, and he might screw something up.
Yeah, probably.
The funniest thing about that
has been Paul George since Indiana, but yes, go ahead.
The funny, well, he finished top 3 in MVP voting in 2019, but with OKC. But the funniest thing about OKC was the nights that he signed, the day that he signed with OKC to be re-signed, saying I'm not going anywhere. The mayor of Oklahoma City declared that day Paul George Day, and that day was the day that that OKC traded Paul George, like on the anniversary of that day.
Oh,
so yeah,
that's awesome.
So it was absolutely insane. So.
Paul George, man.
Paul George, growing up, Paul George is one of my favorite players. My favorite type of archetype of a player is a wing who plays on both ends of the floor. Hence, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Kawhi Leonard. Those are my favorite types of players. But Paul George, over and over again, just has so many bad moments. Which he has great moments too. Like the closeout game against Utah, he had 29 on great efficiency, and that was without Kawhi. So he has his great moments, but. They do not outbalance the bad moments in the playoffs, unfortunately.
He's Paul George is always fascinating me because he's like you said, he's like the archetype that you would pick. You're like, oh yeah, if I was creating a player, Paul George has all the pieces.
Yep.
And yet somehow has been supremely good, but supremely disappointing. Poor guy.
I just think we give way too much praise to guys who excel in the regular season. And he's a great player. He has a lot of skills, but that's why I keep telling everybody there's something else, right? Everyone fights me on these intangible things, but unfortunately there is intangibles that take you from being really talented, really skilled, who can put up good numbers to wow. I guess that's wow, that's a guy. And there's not that many of those guys. And just Paul George isn't that guy. He's great.
He's the tier below. Yeah.
He's the tier below. He's the
Now,
tier.
now I have a question because that brings up is a good point. A lot of guys talk about this on NBA TikTok, but now I know Fluent, you don't rank people until like they're done, but theoretically, play along for a little bit.
I
Paul George,
this.
or Jimmy Butler, who ranks higher all time?
I have, so I'll tell you who I have higher in a second. I do think I have Butler. I think I have George higher by a hair. Both of them are in like the late 60s, I think, if I'm not mistaken. If I just need to pull that up real quick, though. But yeah.
While he pulls that up, I'll say, I'm not gonna. You can't hold me to it because I haven't ranked them. I haven't looked to do it until they retire. That being said, I'm thinking Jimmy Butler's gonna probably get the nod, but it's gonna be like he said, they're like, if one's 65, the other's 66, right? Or 64, 66, or 65, 67. Like it'll be that close. But I think just off the top of my head, because of the kind of playoff riser that Jimmy Butler is, I'll knock some of it because he, kind of coasts in the regular season, especially later on in his career. But I also give bonus marks to people who elevate their game in the playoffs. So I think that elevation in the playoffs will kind of match and exceed the knock that I give him for coasting in the regular season. Whereas Paul George is interesting. There doesn't seem to be a drop off, but there's also, again, off memory. So that's why I haven't done this officially.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know that there's a lift either. So he'll get credit for being consistent throughout. My best example is like Wilt gets a huge hit, right? Because you can't go from 30 a game in the regular season to 22 in the playoffs and not get a hit. I don't care how the defense changes. I don't care how slow the game becomes. You can't do that because the others of your level that you're going to rank, let's say top 10, top 15, if they didn't do that, right? Most of them raised, some of them stayed consistent, or there was a little dip. You have a huge dip in the one thing that you say you're the best at in the world ever in the history of the game. Well, then you got to be good at it. You can't suck at it ever in comparison to yourself. Whereas Paul George, again, off memory, I'm pretty sure like that season that you said that he was MVP, I think he averaged like 28 and a half in the regular season, then 20 and a half in the playoffs. Granted, he only played 5 games and was knocked out by the Trailblazers.
Portland.
Right. Mm-hmm. But still, he was consistent. So, you know what I mean? And I'm not only using points, but I'm using that as an example because it's the thing I remember. So there's a consistency there. So that's why it'll be close. It'll be close. Yeah.
That's why I always thought it was intriguing because they almost kind of have like a yin yang type of like.
They're very similar types of, they're two-way players. I think Jimmy had to work harder to be a good offensive player, and Paul had to work harder to be a good defensive player. Versus what they naturally were. But yeah, they're both that type of guy that's like, could they be the best player on a championship team? Right.
All right. Now, not to go on a complete tangent here, but the third part of the question that makes everybody upset: are both of them higher ranked than Carmelo Anthony?
Yes.
Sure are.
Yeah, easily. That's the easy question.
Yeah, but you just upset everybody listening on that. You guys just set the internet ablaze.
Fall in love with offense and scoring, and they think that's the only part of basketball.
So to answer your question from earlier, Ori, it was the exact numbers that Fluent said. I do have Paul George at 65. I have Damian Lillard at 60. Paul George at 64, Damian Lillard at 65, and Jimmy Butler at 66. And then Joel Embiid at 67, actually. So and then Carmelo Anthony I have at 72, because everything I said about Paul George being the exact archetype of player that I love, Carmelo Anthony is the exact archetype of player that I hate. Which Carmelo Anthony is one of the best mid-range scorers of all time, but he's everything. He He's not a good defensive player. He's an awful playmaker. He doesn't pass the ball when he needs to. He drops he's a big playoff dropper and doesn't make his teammates around him better. He's like, everyone loves him. Even his teammates like him. His teammates like him. He's a great guy and everything, but he will not. Yeah, he's not a player.
I always say this: take away the one thing, and do this with every player, just to see where you rank them. Take the one thing that they are best at, take it away, and ask yourself, how can they affect the game if they couldn't do that? And if your answer is, oh, I'm screwed, then you have to be like, is that person then, right? Like if you take away scoring from Carmelo, how will he affect the game?
Not many ways.
I love Kevin Durant. Take away scoring from Kevin Durant. How will he affect, like really affect the game? And if it's, well, a little bit here or a little bit there, I'm not saying it makes him bad. What I'm saying is now say like, well, what if I take away scoring from LeBron? Or because no matter what you think, that's still his best attribute. Well, he's still going to rebound. He's still going to pass. He's still going to play make, right? Take away shooting from Curry. Yeah, well, he's still going to penetrate, dish. Heck, he out-rebounded Kevin Durant when they were playing together. Take away scoring from Jordan. Well, we know that when you've done that, well, he's had doubled. He's the last person to have more than 10 assists in an NBA final average. The last person to average more than 10 assists per game. So I know he can do that. I know he can defend. I know he can do these other, right? Any other player, take scoring away from Wilt. As much as I make fun of Wilt, yeah, but I know he's going to get me 30 rebounds. Then I know that he led the league in total assists. So I know that if he's forced to, he can pass.
They can even do it in big moments. I mean, look at Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant was 6 for 24 in that Game 7 in 2010. He had 15 rebounds.
And all I'm saying is that doesn't make them bad players. Like I'm not saying KD or Carmelo are bad players. I'm just saying, so when you look at those top tier guys, the reason they don't make it in there is because they can't do as much when you take away their what you would consider their top attribute. And look, everyone thinks I'm crazy when I say that, but I'm like, no, like I value the fact that you can affect a game in more than one way, because you're not going to be able to score every night the way you think you can. You're not going to be able to shut down people if you're a defender, right? Like what made Kawhi so great? It's when he learned how to score, right? Because he was a great defender before, but once he was averaging even 20 a game, it was like, wow, now we got to talk about this guy. You know what I mean? It's when you add that extra piece. And I think Carmelo, I always say the worst thing that ever happened to Carmelo was getting drafted to Denver. If Detroit would have done the right thing and drafted Carmelo, they would have forced him, those vets and Larry Brown, who hates rookies, he would have been forced to earn his minutes off the bench because he would have been the sixth man as a rookie by playing defense. You now give him average defense, average to good defense with his ability to score. Ooh, he would have been like, we would have had a very different conversation about Carmelo.
100%. As that butterfly effects, but that's definitely true. I mean, it's if Detroit just does what they're supposed to do, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna get into our predictions for the finals.
Okay.
But first, I want to make sure there's a couple of things in the chat that I wanted to talk about because they were good points, and I think I brought up one, so we talked about that. We talked about that was a Paul George one. Al Horford retiring as a Hawk. You guys are the Boston guys. What do you think of that?
By retire as a Hawk, I think that would. I don't think he would. I don't think it'd be him like playing the full season with the Hawks. I think it would be
signing like a 1 day. Or
I mean,
yeah.
I'd be okay with it, but however, again, I'm 100% biased, but like I feel like between like what his sister says on Twitter and just like how much he loves Boston, I feel like his heart's more in Boston than it ever was in Atlanta. But I don't know what you think, Corey.
He played longer in Atlanta though, right?
Correct.
Or has he caught? Yeah, that's
what and his prime, he was better in Atlanta than he was in Boston. But however, between his ring and just like his overall, like how much Boston embraced him when he came here and how much they love him now, I do feel like his heart is more in Boston than Atlanta.
All right, this one completely has nothing to do with the NBA Finals, but we're going to get to it, and then we are going to make our predictions. LeBron wants a month off before the playoffs.
Is that real? I heard something about that. I didn't
When-
look into it all the
When
way.
was this?
Okay, so what I'll do is, if you indulge me in a second, I was going to save this for Tuesday, but let me here we go. I happen to have it handy, and you guys are probably going to be very shocked at what I have to say, but I'll get your take first. And I haven't formatted it properly, so I apologize if it looks weird on screen because I was not planning to do this. But this is when you go live, this is what happens sometimes as people make a good comment you need to address. So
let's start with the physicality.
Here it is.
Physicality. I mean, one thing is like the playoffs are always going to be more physical, but I think they're generally the last 10, 15 years, it's a big contrast from the regular season to the playoffs.
Yeah, the first thing I want to say to that is like, if they're going to allow it to be as physical as it is, you got to give us a little time to prepare for it.
So like post All-Star break, something like that.
I mean, post All-Star break is usually like 30 games left, so maybe like maybe 12 to 15 games left in the regular season. Okay, like a month.
Yeah.
Give us a month to prepare for it because it goes from 0 to 100. It goes from us to be able to body check. No body check, no hand checking, no pushing a guy off their spot, no rerouting guys at all.
Right.
For 8-9 months, and then or for 6.5, 7 months, and then
have at it.
2 months straight, have at it.
Have at it.
Like straight up, just no holds barred, and it's fun.
Yeah, I don't think either of us have a problem with it.
We don't have a problem with it.
It's just a contrast.
It's just a contrast, of not being able to get into that flow. So yeah, it's definitely over the last like you said, 10, 15 years, the game, they've allowed us to do it.
Yeah.
And it's fun. I personally wish we could do it all year.
Yeah.
But also have the body makeup for it to do it all year too. So it wouldn't be beneficial to the product to do, run a marathon. I mean, run a sprint during a marathon.
Running a sprint during a marathon.
So I'm confused. Is he saying that he wants the All-Star break later, and then the 12, 15 games after that, that's when the ref starts letting them play more physical? Is that what he's saying?
So it's interesting. So the way that people took it was that he's asking for 30 days after the regular season ends to get ready for the playoffs. However, most people don't actually watch or listen. They just see a headline and they run with it. Right. So I watched the whole episode and then I took that clip out because that's the clip I think that's telling people that he wants the break. But the way I took it was, and I'm going to defend LeBron because people call me a hater. No, I'm about the truth. And the truth is only hate if you hate the truth. That is my new line that I'm going to keep repeating.
Boom.
So here's the truth. It sounded to me like he was saying the last 30 days of the last month of the regular season, start to call the games the way that you're going to be calling them in the playoffs, which means allowing for that physicality so that we're used to it when the playoffs hit, because what's been happening is regular season, no touching. Game 1 of the playoffs, beat the crap out of each other, right? And it's like, hold on, there's such a huge contrast between I can't touch you now, and now the playoffs started and I can punch you in the face, that it's like, whoa, give us like that 30 days where you start to allow the physicality and the bumping and the pushing and the hand checking, allow us to get used to it over that 30 days. And then when the playoffs hit, hey, now we're used to playing that way. That's how I took that. And I'm the hater. But how other people took it is, he's asking for 30 days off. How did you guys take it?
Yeah,
you want me to play it again?
No, unless there's another part of the episode in which he said I want time, more time off in between the regular season and the playoffs. That's definitely not how I took it. But
unless I missed something, which is very possible.
Yeah, but I don't. I don't know if you want me to address what he said in the video, just because So I don't know if I agree. Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that premise either. Just because. And it's not because I'm a traditional guy where I'd prefer the All-Star break to be halfway through the season. It's mainly just because by the time that All-Star break would occur, a lot of the seedings would already be set in place.
I don't think he's saying change the All-Star break. Did I hear him wrong?
Well, like, I think he said there's 30 games after the All-Star break, but like he wanted it to be 12 to 15 games after the All-Star break. Is that I thought that's what he said.
Okay, you know what?
Yeah, wasn't it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let's get back to it.
Yeah, let's be clear. Let's be clear.
Yeah.
But I think they're generally the last 10, 15 years, it's a big contrast from the regular season to the playoffs.
Yeah, the first thing I want to say to that is like, if they're going to allow it to be as physical as it is, you got to give us a little time to prepare for it.
So like post All-Star break, something like that.
I mean, post All-Star break is usually like 30 games left, so maybe like maybe 12 to 15 games left in the regular season.
Okay.
A month.
Like a month. Give us a month to prepare for it.
Okay. There we go. That does make more sense. Okay. I don't disagree with. I don't necessarily disagree with what he has to say, but I also feel like that does happen though for certain teams. Like maybe it happens more with the teams that are fighting in like playoff spots. That like the end of the games become more intense, and that's when the refs start to swallow the whistle a little bit more. But
I feel like that happens throughout the season. I feel like when there's rivalry games, when there's inter like division games, when there's Christmas Day games, there seems to if there's an intensity there and the in-season tournament games,
right.
I feel like I feel like the refs realize we shouldn't dictate who wins. Whereas
usually, at least
in the regular season, it's like, okay, maybe they feel like they should.
I was just gonna say, what's the opposite to that? Regular season, they do get to dictate who wins.
A little bit.
Yeah, well, like and again, like LeBron, like I'm not saying that like we know more than LeBron in the subject, but that being said, I feel like it's like for like the last 12, it's only for the last 12 50 games he wants them to swallow the whistle a little bit more. Like I said, like games like only for certain teams is the 12 to 15 games like more. The games are like higher stakes for them, but yeah, like I don't know how exactly you would enforce that.
That's the hard thing. It's gonna be super. I get, like I said, I'm defending it because I get what he's saying.
Yes,
100%.
Like, yeah.
I have praised the playoffs this year in the sense that I was like, wow, they really letting them play. I've been seeing hand checking, good deep, because I've said this for years. They've made so many rules that no perimeter defender can defend because they've put rules in place that they're not allowed. And I've praised this playoffs because I was like, wow, they're letting them defend. And now you're seeing how hard it is, right? Look at the 3-point shooting numbers. It's hard to shoot a bunch of 3-point shots when there's a guy's hand on your hip. And everyone who was saying, oh, Fluent, you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, trust me, you've never actually dealt with someone hand checking you. I still have bruises from the 90s. And I'm like, trust me, it doesn't affect you as much in the post because when you're in the post, there's contact always, no matter what the rule is. However, when you're out on the perimeter, if no one can touch you and no one can undercut you, right? So you can just catch and shoot. There's a comfort level in knowing no one's going to touch me, right? And if they do, there's going to be a problem. And there's a difference between, okay, no one's going to touch me. And now it's like, oh, wait, hold on. He's going to knock me off. It's not going to be, as a perfect kind of, clean catch and shoot. And now, I always use this crazy example, but there's a player in high school that as you would go up to shoot your three, he would run by you and slap you right in the, wheres, right? And he would always do it once with the refs, not being able to see it. And then the next time you were shooting, you were a little bit cautious that you were going to get another one right in your family jewels.
Yeah.
And it changed your comfort level, even though he never did it again, right? But there's always that thought. And I think that is the thing where it's like when you're shooting from that deep, you need your legs and your flow and your form to be like, go watch Steph, right? There's the reason he's so great is there's that same exact form, right? Well, what happens if someone's knocking him off that? He's not going to shoot as well. And that's the greatest shooter of all time. Imagine now someone who's, not as good, not as consistent. And we've seen a lot of those guys struggle throughout the playoffs. And so I understand what he's saying is that, well, let us get used to that because you can't be like, no touch, like just no prep for it. So I get what he's saying to your point. No idea how you enforce that. None.
Right.
But and because you can't enforce it, I mean, don't you just kind of have to deal with the contrast? I mean, I feel like it's one of those things where, like, not to like get on LeBron James because I don't think he's wrong or anything, but like, I feel like LeBron's just not allowed to talk about rest. Like, as an athlete from 2025 and being LeBron James, I feel like if anything like that comes up, it's gonna be controversial.
Yeah. Well, I think they took it as he wants a 30-day or 15-day break.
Right.
And
So
listen,
they were looking for that.
and
Yeah.
the troll side of me, right, was right away on X saying, well, yeah, half of his chips came when he got real shortened season, a full off season for the bubble. Like he had a full off season for the bubble. And they came in fresh and played an in-season tournament and they won. Whoop-de-doo. I'm happy because the Lakers got another ring. And at the time it tied us with Boston. So I was very happy. But in reality, like, and that's why they took it. It's like he always needs a break. He always needs the easy way out. And so yeah, I played that up a bit and drove some people crazy. They want to, kill me, and so be it. Keep sliding into my DMs. I don't care. But that being said, when I actually listened to what he said, I'm like, nah, he's just saying, let's call the games. And he's not even saying playoff, like you're saying, completely swallow those. He's saying just little by little, allow a little bit more, a little bit more. And, I don't know, maybe it's like the fourth quarter. Maybe it's the first quarter. Maybe it's the third, or who knows? I don't know. But I thought it was interesting. All right. Ooh, excuse me. So let's get to our predictions. Right. I don't think there was anything else in the chat that I wanted to. No, I don't think there was anything else. Okay.
Shout out to my friend from high school, Ethan Chu, who is actually he's like an actual Indiana Pacers fan and not just someone who hopped on the bandwagon. He's been a Pacers fan since high school, so it's very cool to see that. And from New Jersey, by the way. So being a Pacers fan from New Jersey is quite interesting.
From New Jersey, but he clearly has bad taste if he's calling you the GOAT for real. Shout out, Ethan, and shout out to hold on, who is it? Amon Jones, who couldn't wait for the chat to engage. I don't know if you've seen the bottom underneath. It says if you want to be part of the show, send us a super chat. $3. Like, let's go. We'll talk about your topic for 10 minutes. Ori, I'm going to start with you. We now have the finals set. Got the Oklahoma City Thunder versus Indiana Pacers. It will be starting on Thursday, game 1 in OKC. For the record, as far as I'm concerned, I don't care what anybody else thinks. The Indiana Pacers have never won an NBA championship, although they did win a couple in the ABA. They've never won an NBA championship. They haven't been to the finals, I think, since 2000. 2000. Yeah. So it's been interesting. They came into the league in 76, so it took them like 24 years to make the final, and it's been 24, 25 years again, and now they've made the finals again. Very so cool. We'll see again. Ethan, we'll see your Pacers here again in 2050. Maybe 49, maybe 49. It's 24, 25. The Oklahoma City Thunder, again, I don't give a crap what you say, have never won an NBA championship. That history belongs to the Seattle Supersonics, who will be back in the league before you know it. And that's their name, their history, their titles. You got nothing. Okay. So two teams that have never, in my mind, won an NBA championship. Who you got, how many games, and why?
I'm going to tell you right now, when it comes to like the unpredictability of this, OKC you could have predicted. Indiana, there's no way you could have predicted. Especially like if you had asked this question at like the All-Star break, who wins 7 games? Indiana versus Oklahoma City, you would have said sweep 10 times out of 10. The fact that Indiana has gone on this run feels like they are supremely dangerous, and their depth seems to match up well with what OKC does. Like, I kind of feel like it's one of those our offensive depth versus your defensive depth. How are we going to match up? It's a series that I'm picking Oklahoma City to win, and I'm picking them to win in 6. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Pacers push them to 7. But at the end of the day, if I was a gambling man, I think Oklahoma City just has had too impressive of a season. They're too good top to bottom. They've showcased it. They've gone through the tougher challenges and come out on top. And I think, you know, this could be a sweep and people probably wouldn't be surprised. But I think Indiana's just been too good for that. So I think it goes in 6 and Oklahoma City takes it.
Okay.
So I'm very happy that Indiana made the finals for a couple of reasons. One of them being that Nick
No,
fans
you're
are the
not.
yeah,
Don't lie. You're a Celtics fan. There's no way you're
under these circumstances. I'm very happy that under these circumstances, I'm very happy that Indiana made the final. It's just because all the fake Nick fans. I'm talking. By the way, the real Nick fans out there are very they were very nice to me. They were very nice to Celtics fans. I'm talking about the ones that just came out of the woodwork because now the Knicks are good again. So shout out to those Knicks fans. But however, the ones that have been watching basketball for 5 minutes, they weren't really so nice. So nice to see them get a taste of their own medicine. But another reason why I'm happy that it was Indiana that made the finals was because it further justifies the Celtics run last year. Because we've been saying, like, or we've been saying for over a year now that the Pacers were our toughest road to the finals, even though they're the team that swept. And I do think that the Thunder Pacers series is going to be very similar to the Celtics Pacers series last year. Both of these are two of the best offenses in the league. They move the ball really quickly. They have a pretty deep team. They're both greatly coached. Shai is on a different level than Tyrese Haliburton, but both of them do have two of the best offensive engines in the league. They both have a center that can stretch the floor between Miles Turner and Chet Holmgren. They have two great second bananas in J-Dub and Pascal Siakam. But at the end of the day, the Thunder, the difference maker is going to be the defense. The Pacers have been much better on defense since the All-Star break. I do believe that they were, what was it? I'm trying to think. I think that, they were 9th in defense since the All-Star break. So like much better on defense. And even this year, like even in the playoffs this year, they played great defense on the Cavs for certain stretches. Same thing with the Knicks. But at the end of the day, I just think that I think I don't want to say all the games, but like I do think at least 2 or 3 of the games are going to be very close. But I do think it's going to result in OKC winning majority of those games, and I think that OKC is going to close this out in 5.
So there's a clip out there that everyone's going to ask me to find, and I will because it's on Fluent and Chill somewhere, where I said from last NBA Finals, I said, barring an injury to Jason Tatum, the Boston Celtics will be in the NBA Final this year. If that injury should occur, which I hope it doesn't, and I still wish it hadn't, I said, don't be surprised if the Indiana Pacers are representing the East in the NBA Final. So I will find it because I'm very proud of that clip. I should probably keep them when I say stuff like that. When people say you're an idiot for saying that, I probably should save those because looky here, an injury to Jason Tatum and the Indiana Pacers are in the NBA Final. That being said, I think OKC's defense is going to make you see what I saw from Pascal Siakam, which is he's really good for 3.5 quarters.
Yeah.
And he's not that good in the end of games. And they're going to need him to be good at end of games. And because he's not, the only reason why I'm not saying that OKC is going to sweep, because I think they're better offensively, better defensively, better equipped, just an overall, they're I feel a lot like a significantly better team. The only reason I'm not saying it's a sweep, it's because they got to wait till Thursday to play. And I think and I see what they do, and this is their youth, where they like take a game off, right? You saw Minnesota beat them by 50 or whatever the hell it was when they beat the snot out of them. And so there'll be that game, especially the way Indiana can play offense. Like if your defense isn't like perfect, they'll drop 140 points on you, like in a heartbeat. Mm-hmm. They play so fast. So they'll get that game. And it'll be like OKC will be up 2-1. OKC will be up 2-0. Indiana will have that game at home, I think, in game 3, and they're like, whoa, these guys are for real. And then OKC wins the next 2 games and the series is over. It could, this is option B, and I think it only plays out one of these 2 ways. Indiana shocks the hell out of them and stomps them in game 1. And then OKC wins 4 in a row, which some idiot's going to call a gentleman's sweep, and I'm going to want to strangle you. Although that's more of a gentleman's sweep than if you give him the first one. If you give him one in the middle, but anyways, but I just think
I gave you a shout out. I gave you a shout out on my show the other day, like when we were talking about how
sweep?
okay, so, yes, because of the
which Fluent doesn't believe in. Absolutely,
yes.
I don't believe in.
It's exactly what I said. Yeah,
gentleman sweeps, or I don't know. I'm sure there's something else I don't believe in. That the Earth is round. Shout out to Flat Earth Dave. So I just think they outmatch them in every aspect of the game, and the one thing that they're going to struggle with, and I do like Miles Turner, but I think he is the weakest link on their kind of on that unit. And I think, although I'm not huge on
it's either him and Neesmith, one of the two of them.
I just think they're gonna get to the they're gonna get to the like SGA in the mid range and get into the basket is gonna just torch them and make life so difficult for them defensively and so much easier for everybody else around them offensively that it's gonna be too much. And yes, he's gonna get 15 free throws a game and everyone's gonna lose their minds, but it's gonna be well deserved 15 free throws a game. And yeah, like I said, I think that'll be the end of the Pacers.
How crazy is it that, at the end of the day, one of these things where like Oklahoma City is going to win their first title potentially without Russell Westbrook or Kevin Durant and all that jazz. Like this is the version of Oklahoma City that wins it all.
Well, listen, but I think you've seen throughout the years like that Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant are overrated players the way we looked at them. I'm not saying they're bad players. Let's be very, 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 very clear.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm not saying they're bad. I'm saying like we were talking like Kevin Durant was a top 10 player ever, and he's not. He's not a top 10 player ever. So that's what I mean by when I say overrated. Is that
because you could be great and overrated.
Absolutely. Listen, you could be the 12th greatest player of all time, and everyone thinks you're top 5. That's overrated.
Sounds like it sounds like you're talking about the guy that's behind you. Actually,
he's not overrated. Here's why he's not overrated, because you have people who have him, the NBA analysts have him like 7 through 15.
Right.
That's not overrated. Now, the players have him top 3. Well, I think players have a different ranking of who he's my second favorite player all time. I don't have him top 3.
I think,
and I'd love to put him top 3.
Polarizing is the better term. He's
polarized because
he has a wide range. Because like I know that you have him 5th.
I've heard 20.
Yeah. So like the lowest like credible source that I've seen is Carson from Nerd Sesh. He has him 12th, I think. So like that's but I'm talking like outside of like the trolls, like actual NBA analyst. He's not an analyst, but like he's like clearly does his research. So like that's like the lowest I've seen him is 12. Yeah.
Okay, so no, because I guess from credible people. You're right.
Yeah.
From credible. So I think like Chilltown says it all the time. If you have him from like 7 to 11, he's cool.
Yes.
I think you can go as high as 5 with him if you're depending on what your ranking system is.
What your criteria is, yeah.
And I will admit to everyone, I know that if I was not a Laker fan, if he wasn't my second favorite player all time, I'd probably have him at like 7 or 8. And I bumped 5 because every Celtic gets bumped back 1 just because they're Celtics, and I'm okay with that. I'll admit it, and if you don't like it, too bad. But I'm not a liar. I'm not going to say the Laker Celtic thing has no weight. It 100% has a weight.
Sure,
but I'll admit it, right? So I think it makes me better.
Bias is better if you self-aware bias.
Yeah, exactly. So like I have a list of like, this is the list I tell everybody, but I have another list where I'm like, okay, if I take all, my fandom out of it, here's where the guys, turn a little bit. There's a little bit of movement. It's not in the top 4 though. My top 4 I think is locked, signed, sealed, and delivered. But my top 4 is pretty, and my top 4 I don't play favorites. Like Magic's my favorite player of all time. He's not 1, and I'd love to put him 1, and I can make an argument that he should be 1, but he's not. Right? Michael Jordan is not even in my top 10 favorite players of all time. LeBron James, actually in terms of favorite players, you guys might pass out when you hear this. LeBron James is ranked higher than Jordan on favorite players. Now, a huge chunk of that is because he plays for my Lakers and he won them a ring. And anyone who plays for my Lakers and wins me a ring gets a huge boost in my favorite players. But when I'm ranking a player as much as I possibly can, with the exception of Kobe and Magic, I do not allow my favoritism. Right, like if I had Kobe and Bird, for example, and this is actually kind of true, where I have Bird slightly ahead of Kobe, but I put Kobe ahead of Bird in my ranking because in the list that I'll show people, in the list that I don't, he's behind him. I could never admit that to anyone. Well, now I have, but right.
World now.
Well, I'm not. Well, I don't know what you're talking about because I'm not biased at all, and I Bird at 4. So I don't know what bias you're talking about here, but.
Sure. But like I said, like I don't think Kobe probably is the most properly rated guy.
I got him at 9. So
like there's no, because again, it depends on your criteria because he's so good, but then he was so bad at some things that it's like you get it. Like if you're going to hold him accountable, if you're going to hold other players accountable for their failures, you got to hold him accountable for his too, which knocks him. And that's why I never get mad. Like I always say, if you've got LeBron, Jordan, Kareem, kind of Magic, I don't even care what order. It's tough to argue with those, right? And then your next tier is again, I don't care the order of Bird, Kobe, Wilt, Hakeem, Shaq, Duncan. Because then there's it's not necessarily favoritism so much as there's a subjectivity to it, but also your criteria. What's more important? Like if you find scoring more important, maybe you have Wilt ahead of Russell. If it's about rings and defense, well, you're going to probably have Russell ahead of Wilt, as an example. I struggle with Shaq and Hakeem, where I feel like on a daily basis, I flip-flop them. Because Shaq was clearly the more dominant player, but Hakeem was way better defensively from a skill set, right? Like that whole two-way player.
Dream
right? He was way better in those things. So it's like, right?
That's always become like, is that like that better versus greatest kind of stuff, where it's hard to kind of compute, because
they'll say Hakeem only got 2 rings, Shaq has 4. And I'm like, yeah, but Hakeem kind of did it alone, at least the first one. Yeah, he got an older, because this is where you're going to say he's old, an older Clyde Drexler for the second one, but that was halfway through the season. A lot of times that screws up the chemistry of whatever. But like he might have had the toughest, worst roster that he took to an NBA final and won. I don't take him and lose. Took to a final and won of anyone ever. And so, because like Moses took a worse team, but they lost in Houston. But they lost. So I give, again, you got to give, but then it's like, but what was he doing the other, 10 years in Houston when, he made the finals once with Ralph Sampson, but they lost. Who's
a lot of first round exits. He's got a lot of first round exits.
Could not beat Seattle for the life of him. And the only reason he probably made those finals is because somebody else knocked out Seattle. Right. So there's all these like, Shaq had Kobe and then he had Wade. So it's like, so is that what's important? So there's those two are the toughest ones.
The better versus greater conversation drives me crazy though, because I saw this kid the other day put Embiid ahead of Zeke the other day because like, he's way better on defense and also he's the way better scorer. I'm like, okay. If you're building a team, which one do you want to win a championship? Which one do you want? You want Zeke? You're like, I don't know, but he's a better player. I'm like, I don't care who's better.
Hold on. Joel Embiid over, when you say Zeke, Isaiah Thomas? Is he smoking crack?
Likely.
He's better on both ends of the portal, apparently. I'm like he's not better on offense. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's that fall in love with bag over production type of ordeal too, where like
I don't give a crap context. Bag. Did Kareem have a bag?
Right.
He had a scout book, and it took what you guys call, some of you, the greatest or second greatest player of all time, 38 years to surpass his scoring for a guy who played his full college career, by the way. Because he had no bag. He had no 3-pointer. He couldn't dribble. He couldn't pass. All he could do was skyhook, according to
all he could do was produce, which at the end of the day, isn't that what matters?
Bruce Lee had the best line ever. You know this line? Do you know this
No,
line?
but no, I don't. But like hearing Bruce Lee in this podcast is pretty funny.
Bruce Lee had the best line ever. He said, "Never be afraid of the man who knows who does 10,000 different kicks. Be worried about the man who does the same kick 10,000 times."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm paraphrasing, that's not the exact quote, but basically, like, I don't care that you can score from 20 different ways, because if you can't stop my skyhook, I don't need to do anything else. And so, like,
And that's a lot of basketball arguments at the end of the day are bag versus production, more or less.
We'd be very clear, by the way, when we say the GOAT, 99.999% of the time, what people are talking about is the NBA GOAT.
Yeah.
Because they're not talking about the basketball GOAT.
Oh yeah.
Because Kareem is the GOAT of basketball.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Someone tried to argue that.
Across the board. Yeah.
I said, you can't argue that Kareem's not the best basketball player ever. And they were like, what do you mean? I said, well, who was the best high school player ever?
Either Kareem or Russell. Kareem, though.
It's Kareem. Kareem did it in New York. 3 years he played, 3 championships, always the best player, all 3 of those seasons. And I think they won I think they lost like 1 game.
Right.
Then he goes to university. He only gets to play. Freshmen aren't allowed to play, by the way. So he only, back in those days, he only plays 3 years. They lose 2 games in 3 seasons. One of those seasons they go undefeated. They win the national championship all 3 seasons. He's the player of the year all 3 times. Averages the most points, the most rebounds, and they outlaw dunking. They don't allow him to dunk the ball because he's so. And then he goes to the NBA, and we know what he did: 10 finals, 6 wins, multiple MVPs, 6 MVPs, still the most MVPs of any player ever. What does he have? 2 or 3 finals MVPs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Was the leading scorer. Again, took 38 years to, like, he has everything. And I'm like, how can you argue? And someone say, well, LeBron. I said, okay, well, sure. LeBron has, I believe, 3 high school championships.
Was it 2 or 3?
I'm not. I think he has 3, but he also lost 1.
Okay.
He lost 1. He has no college at all, and he went to the same 10 finals and won 4. And so, although I agree his NBA career is better, you can argue his high school, but I still think Kareem's is better because, no offense, doing it in Ohio is not the same as doing it in New York. But I've got this whole college career. And let's be very honest. And the only reason he doesn't have any Olympic gold medals is because he was protesting and didn't go. Because I guarantee you, I would bet my house that if Kareem went to the Olympics, he would have a gold medal around his neck too. So, but I can't say that because I can't say, well, if LeBron went to college, he'd win some national titles too. So I'm not using that as the argument, but I'm just saying that's the only reason he doesn't have any. So based on what they did, he's the best basketball player ever. All right. So I've got OKC in 5. You have OKC in 5. And you have OKC in 6, as my son would say, 6, 7.
Yeah.
You hate that too?
I'm a middle school teacher. Of course I hate that.
Oh my God, you hear that every day.
Every day, yes.
All right. In that case then, TikTok, Ori, what's your Hoop Social?
Hoop Social, you know what's that? Check us out all the time. We're trying to add new stuff. Trying my best to get more consistent. But we're capturing lightning in a bottle. Hoop Social is where it's at.
I'm putting Mr. Bucket Specialist Pacers in 6 because he's the only one picking the Pacers. So if that comes to fruition, Mr. Buckets, come back because we'll pull it back up. So I'm putting it on screen so we can clip it and say you're the guy who had it first.
He's the one.
It's not gonna happen, but all right. And All American Hoops is on Thursday. Are you going to go Thursday with the game, or are you going to go earlier?
I'm going to try. I'm going to see if I can go. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can go earlier. But yeah, we're not going to do regular 8 o'clock time during the finals. But I know that for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I've been doing
Chill and I've been doing Fluent and Chill on Tuesday when there's a game on, and it's funny because I'll give updates and stuff because we're watching clearly. Like I have a TV there, he's got a TV beside him, and it's like you always see like end of the quarter, there's a spike in viewers, and then it's like we talk about. Then at halftime there's a spike, and then. It's like the spike in viewership, like whenever like Mariah Carey's Alarm for Christmas Is You, it's like the huge spike like around like November when it comes up. Yeah. And then the third quarter, the show we end because of timing, and they're like, okay, let's all go watch the fourth quarter together.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely. When I saw that it was Thursday, I'm like, yes, for the first time, I'm not going to have to compete with the NBA playoffs to do a show. So we're good. Speaking of that, so check out Thursday, time to be TBD for All American Hoops, and then obviously Tuesday, 8:00 here, Sports Fluent, and on Chilltown Hoops, Fluent and Chill. And then next week, we'll sit here and gloat about how smart we were about picking OKC.
Heck yes. Hopefully.
All right.
All right.
Now
All
you
right, boys.
Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
Nah, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.